God said, everything is possible. People say, God is omnipotent. Day after day, year after year, human science and technology are changing with each passing day, but after World War II, there is no essential leap, and the Earth's increasingly checks and balances make the possibility of war less and less. With the depletion of resources and the deteriorating environment, human development has fallen into a bottleneck. Perhaps it was a joke of God. After a very common sunspot storm, an unfamiliar asteroid broke into the solar system, but this was not enough to attract global attention. It was at best for astronomers' pleasure, but it was a small one. The planet actually rushed towards the Earth in an orbit that completely violates the laws of physics. After the Hubble telescope, the asteroid is a little smaller than the Moon, but a planet of this size rushes towards the Earth at 13 times the speed of the universe. Enough to allow the history of the extinction of dinosaurs to repeat itself. Even the Earth, whose mechanical civilization has developed to such a degree, cannot resist. At the beginning, the news was tightly sealed by the governments of various countries. The major systems were already operating intensively and wanted to come up with an effective countermeasure before the news was leaked. But soon some amateur astronomers also discovered this secret and asked when the public announced it. The Earth fell into panic. Fortunately, the media of various countries are optimistic, and the observatory and the military are swearing to protect the safety of the Earth. Several countries with nuclear weapons and powerful aerospace technology have jointly proposed a plan to defend the Earth. But time is too tight. The total amount of 103 hours is not enough to complete anything, and there is no feasible plan. The leaders of all parties are still arguing and clamoring for meetings to compete for technical power. The asteroid is coming. Menacing is approaching Mars, and will soon reach the Earth, and exceed the safety warning line. Even if this asteroid can be destroyed at this time, the damage caused by its residual fragments is still enough to return the Earth to its most primitive state. Fate may not be much better than dinosaurs. When people are almost desperate and large-scale riots have occurred in many places on the Earth, surprising surprises appeared. As soon as the asteroid entered the Earth-Moon system, I wonder if it was affected by the gravitational fields of the Earth and the Moon. It even entered the satellite orbit of the Earth and became another planet in the Earth-Moon system. The sudden change also violated the existing laws of physical operation and exceeded the expectations of all astrophysicists. When this result was announced, there was naturally a global boiling. Everyone's eyes were focused on this planet that has repeatedly violated the laws of operation, and urgently wanted to know why this asteroid would move so strangely. Under the joint investigation of all parties, the things that surprise mankind even more have appeared. Since the emergence of space science and technology, countless life planets that mankind are looking for have come close at hand. It is simply a planet full of forests. Seeing one after another clear photos sent back by the satellite, countless scientists want to explode happily. They are all thanking their parents for putting them in such a good age and being able to live to see the most glorious one in the annals of history. This planet was named Life 1, and its appearance and ending gave people on Earth too many surprises. Several major aerospace powers immediately launched the landing plan, but the results of the special measurement of the unmanned spacecraft are surprising. The asteroid is enveloped in a strange force field. This position is sufficient to completely destroy the entering creatures, and the spacecraft's instruments are also it will be severely damaged, and there will be no signal to be fed back soon after landing. In other words, with the current technology, humans cannot board the spacecraft to land on Life 1. But this does not stop human curiosity. Unmanned spacecraft from various countries quickly dispatched samples of the atmosphere of Life 1, because the strange force field spacecraft could not land, but this is already very precious to the people on Earth. The samples are naturally treasured as national treasures in various countries, and they have carried out large-scale researches on their own. Soon, scientists from all over the world discovered a strange active hormone in the sample, a very strange element. It is impossible to say whether it has life, but it can have a great impact on the Earth's organisms. Large-scale experiments began, countless the gas samples were transported to the Earth, and soon scientists discovered that this new element can cause mutations, or evolution, of many existing organisms on the Earth. Evolution, what a fascinating word. Since the day when humans had sex, they have been looking forward to evolution, and today they finally discovered this precious key, and this element is called Zaiwansu. At the beginning, a large number of experiments were only used on mice and monkeys. The surprise results excited the world. Soon countless volunteers were willing to do experiments on living people. Although some conservative organizations of mankind have marched and demonstrated all day long, it is impossible to stop scientists and the government, who are almost mad, and who cannot be tempted to put such a historic opportunity in front of them. In a sense, scientists are the greatest lunatics, and their obsession with human research has prompted them to find all kinds of excuses to conduct human experiments. All this is only on the surface. Underground experiments are even more crazy, including some powerful gangs, terrorist organizations. Zaiwansu can indeed cause mutations in human genes, but the result of mutations may be powerful or weird powers. It could also be madness, idiots, or death, and the latter has a probability of over 80%, but the most indispensable thing on Earth is people. This problem is only for pediatrics, and it can't stop them from moving forward. At this time, something shocked all the people on Earth. The animals in the laboratory turned out to be a collective mutiny. They killed the scientist guards and rushed out of the laboratory. At the same time, they took away a large amount of source of wisdom. More primitive animals and even plants are easier to absorb the wisdom source element. When these original human toys have wisdom and power, they begin to rescue their companions and compete for survival, so war inevitably occurs. This is a global war. Human beings have formed a global war alliance, and they are forced to use many ultimate weapons, causing great harm to the mutant creatures, the Earth, and human beings. Some people say this is because of humans. After intervening in the realm of God, God has begun to punish mankind, so he also called this war a war of destruction. Some religious people think that the mutated animals are made by the devil, so they call them monsters. Over time, this name gradually spread and gained the approval of most people. The result of the war is that both lose and lose, but fortunately, relying on the reproductive ability of humans to surpass the beasts and the accumulated wisdom for centuries, finally humans have the upper hand, but these mutated species have taken root, and the more they survive, the stronger the strength of the beasts. They are tough, some are even more cunning than humans, and they are simply hard to destroy. There is no way that the two parties can only negotiate. At this moment, the strength of all countries has been greatly weakened. Coupled with the impact of war, the power has been in the hands of the war alliance established during the war. At this moment, they have been renamed the Earth Joint General Administration. The result of the negotiation is to delineate some remote places or places that are not suitable for human beings to survive on the continents. Their vitality is relatively strong, so naturally it doesn't matter. In fact, they are already satisfied with the recognition of human beings. Victory is not cost-effective for these new races. Although they have strong combat effectiveness, they need more time to think, summarize, and multiply. Now time is the most precious thing for them. One of the larger sites is in the northernmost part of the Eurasian continent, where most of the beasts are gathered here. With the help of the special ability of planting the beasts, they quickly multiply large forests in those remote places. It is self-contained. It is called the Forest of Warcraft by mankind. It is designated as a forbidden area for mankind and guarded by heavy soldiers. After all, human beings are good at defense. It will run out, so defense is necessary. Human beings suffered from this battle, and the strength of the governments of various countries has been severely weakened. In addition, most of the rights during the war were controlled by the general administration of the Earth, and the political plates on the Earth have undergone a redivision. In the 5th year of the end of the war, the United Earth General Administration was truly established, and the first year of the new era was changed to the first year of the new era, and mankind has since entered a new era. Before the War of Extinction, due to the source of wisdom, a lot of people's body was mutated. In the War of Lost, in order to resist those mutated beasts, many people used large doses of the source of wisdom. They have always forcibly reformed themselves. Of course, only a few people have succeeded. Their strength has become extremely powerful and they have played a huge role in wars. They have a variety of different abilities. Some humans will become powerful monsters of half humans and half beasts once their abilities are stimulated. They are called beast warriors. Some can turn parts of their bodies into plants. Some of the special abilities of plants are very difficult to extract from plants, and the dosage is more difficult to master, so this type is very small, and this type of warrior is called a plant warrior. There is another type that is a spiritual warrior. After some people have undergone large-scale forcible transformation, these people have not experienced physical abnormalities, but their mental power has become extremely strong. They may use their mental abilities to directly launch an offensive, or communicate with some elements in the natural world and pass they launched powerful and unpredictable attacks. Because they use spiritual power, they are called spiritual warriors. The human brain is the most fragile part of the human body. It is called God's forbidden zone. Many people become idiots due to excessive doses and excessive mental strength. It is said that scientists have not been sure why Zywanso can promote the rapid growth of spiritual power makes this kind of people the rarest, but they are also the most powerful, becoming the trump cards in the war. Because their abilities are their greatest secret. Once they are known by others, they may let the enemy find out their weaknesses. This is too dangerous. Because they use the source of wisdom to transform themselves, they generally call themselves Zywan warrior. However, after the end of the war, these names were gradually forgotten, and people called these people with special abilities as supernatural beings. Another characteristic of Zywan fighters is that they will continue to grow and become stronger with their combat capabilities. But it is not unlimited. When their abilities grow to a certain level, they will automatically enter a bottleneck state. If they can get past this bottleneck, their abilities will be greatly improved. They call their growth evolution, and the process of overcoming the bottleneck is called advancement. They use the number of advancements as a measure of their fighters, that is, those who have completed the first advancement are called first-order masters. The second order is 2 orders, and so on. In general, the higher the order, the more powerful it is. But if you can't get past this bottleneck, your strength will never be improved again. If you force the advancement, it is easy to fail, the lighter loses the ability, and the heavy corpse is on the spot, so the advancement is that every Zywan warrior loves and fears. Things. According to data records, the soldier who has experienced the most advancement at present is a soldier named Yuanju in the War of Destruction. He has made great achievements in the war, killed countless enemies, and has become an example of propaganda. According to the current data, in just 10 years after the awakening of the ability, it has continued to evolve, and at least it has gone through 7 advancements, and each time has been successful. Unfortunately, once the war ended, this person disappeared without a trace, and the most powerful people who stayed were that they had gone through 5 advancements, but the average Zywan fighters completed 2 or 3 times are already good enough, more than 4 times. Is very powerful. One can imagine that Yuanju is powerful. In addition, although these fighters played a huge role in the battle with Warcraft, their numbers were too scarce to reverse the overall situation. Ordinary warriors were almost vulnerable to those Warcraft, so the government used another one during the war. This taboo technique integrates humans with some combat machinery. At first, it only transformed the disabled soldiers in the battle. These transformed soldiers have exerted great power on the battlefield and are called cyborg fighters. Seeing the great function of cyborg fighters on the battlefield, they even modified a large number of normal soldiers. The existence of a large number of cyborg fighters became the main force to reverse the battle. However, this modification was too cruel and violated human nature. And the law of human development is the most criticized. Once the war ended, this technology was sealed by the government, and the cyborgs gradually faded out of people's vision. Zaiwansu has also become a taboo, and no one even dared to mention the word casually. Yukanshu. This is a field that only the United Earth Administration can set foot in. After all, in order to fight Warcraft, strength is necessary. Every year, some people are selected to become Zaiwan fighters. Of course, these people are most likely to evolve and succeed after testing. However, many Zaiwan fighters have survived the battlefield. Their mutations are genetic mutations. Many of their descendants have inherited abilities. In addition, some underground world organizations do not obey the United Earth General Administration. They also maintain with a certain number of power fighters and Zaiwansu. Of course, these people will not be stupid enough to confront the Joint General Administration. Basically, all the successfully transformed Zaiwan soldiers and their descendants have been closely watched by the government. Because of their contributions in the war, some people joined the army and the government with their contributions on the battlefield, and there are also quite a few people missing. There are some people who are unwilling to accept constraints. They finally agreed with the general administration that they would be willing to guard the Warcraft forest along the edge of the Warcraft forest for the general administration and the army. They gathered together and eventually formed a special family called the Guardian family, and the place where they lived was called the Hermit tribe. 100 years after the end of the war, people have gradually forgotten the wounds of the war and the huge disaster that Warcraft brought to mankind. Those rich and powerful people began to raise some smart and small monsters, but they did not call them monsters, but called them spirit beasts, so the cultivation of smuggling these clever little monsters became a new business, and he was hiding under the covers. No one noticed the crisis. In New Era 149, after a counterattack against foreign enemies, it was rumored that someone had mastered the swallowing ability in Iwapara 7 Eagle Hall. For a time, no matter the White Road, the underworld, the government, or the military, the major supernatural organizations moved after hearing the news and wanted to get a share of the pie. Even the elites sent out from the Warcraft forest were moved by the wind and rushed to track down the whereabouts of their great beast master. Unexpectedly, the northern underworld leader, the Eagle Alliance, took the first step to seize the site of the 7 eagles. 6 of the 7 eagles in Iwaping were killed on the spot. Only the old 5 wise eagles escaped under the cover of everyone's life. Under pressure, the Eagle League announced the results. The abilities possessed by the dead 6 eagles were not compatible with Swallow, so the target of the joint arrest was placed on Zhiying. Only a few well-informed organizations know that there is a little eagle under the 7 eagles, and this little eagle may be the true master of the devouring ability, and secretly put the focus on this little eagle. However, the 7 Eagle Hall has been completely destroyed. Usually the 7 eagles wear an eagle-shaped mask and do not show their true colors. There is no exact information at all, and they can only be traced based on some subtle clues. However, Zhiying was named Zhi, who was a resourceful person. Although they were all enemies, no one could find their tracks. For this reason, there were a lot of conflicts among the major organizations, and the accumulating grievances deepened. After more than a year of painstaking search to no avail, there is something wrong with going solo. The guys who betrayed the organization have been caught a lot, and it can be regarded as compensation. The wind gradually weakened, and the search seemed to relax a lot. Many people breathed a sigh of relief. From the beginning to the end, the people who have been vigorously chasing after the World of Warcraft elites came out of the Warcraft forest. But the superficial calm is just an illusion, the root problem has not been resolved. The devouring ability is a disaster or a rare opportunity for everyone who knows it. However, Zhiying completely hid the little eagle with him, and did not dare to make any big moves, and they were nowhere to be found. The waves under the calm lake of the power world are turbulent, just waiting for a big outbreak at the right time. As for how many people will be affected, no one can predict. It may be a full-scale war. The ancient city of Xingai, located in the south of the East Asian continent, has a long history and a superior geographical location. It is leaning against the mountains and the sea and has a pleasant climate. It is famous for its ancient academy Xingai. Later generations borrowed the name of Xingai Academy to rebuild a world-class university. The effect was good. In the following 10 years, many universities moved or merged, all moved to Xingai and formed the world-famous Xingai University City, among which Xingai Academy is the most famous. In the evening of one day in New Era 151, the sun was slowly setting, and the afterglow of the setting sun dyed the entire city into a golden color, like the legendary City of Gold. The gentle evening breeze blew by, bringing gentle fragrances, bringing the comfort of the evening breeze to the city. Taking a deep breath, I only feel refreshed and feel a lot more relaxed. It really is a good place. With the get out of class bell ringing through a small city, groups of students slowly stepped out of the school gate to release their fatigue from the day. The couples leaned on each other to find their own world. It was a bit the empty streets were suddenly crowded, and the whole city was filled with laughter and laughter. At the gate of Xingai Academy, a group of students were also leaving the campus to join the surging crowd. "Old Wen, wait for me, where are you going?" a tall and thin boy asked loudly. The abrupt voice caught the attention of others, but he grinned as he saw the glances of other people's glances, and his mouth was white. Tooth, with his handsome face, made an apology for everyone, and then caught up with the boy he had originally called. "It's nothing. I'll sit there. Do you want to be together, Sima?" The boys in front of him who were not tall, slightly fat and dressed in general stopped, saw him chasing him, and looked back. Speaking to him. "Forget it, you go alone. I'll go find another place to play." The boy named Sima smiled bitterly. How dare to go with him? He went to the fire with him a long time ago, only to run into a house of drunks. After that, he would never go to the raging fire again, and the boy named Lao Wen went to the raging fire alone. He was originally alone when he came back. The boy named Lao Wen's real name is Wen. It is a very special name. To be precise, it is a bit rustic. It seems that his parents hope that he can be a learned person. He was a very civilized person, and he was very low-key in dealing with things. He usually only likes to drill in the library, so he didn't have a few friends in the school at all, and gradually he didn't attract everyone's attention. As for the fact that he fell in love with the fire and went to drink, basically no one knew about it except Sima Wenlong, a good friend. Saying goodbye to Sima Wenlong, the article came to the burning fire bar alone, which offers several kinds of spirits that are rare in the city, but just to his appetite, he almost ran the whole city before he found such a good place. In a short time, he became a frequent visitor to Agni, and it is also a favorite of many drunks, big and small. Seeing the article came in, the young hostess led him to the old position in the corner, which was table number 13. This number is a bit taboo for many people, and few people come to sit, but he doesn't care, no one sits just for him. Doing it over time became his exclusive seat. The male waiter asked him in a low voice, "Mr. Wen, are you still the same?" Although he was young and a little student-like, he was in his early 20s, and his identity could be said to be a bit unusual, and it was appropriate to call him husband. Don't put yourself in a place that is too conspicuous. That thing always affects his life intentionally or unintentionally. Hearing the male waiter's inquiry, he softly responded, and the whole person fell into that inexplicable darkness. Among them, gradually melted into the silence. "Please sit down and deliver it later." The male waiter greeted him at the counter, then bowed his head and greeted him, and then left. He has other guests who need him to greet him. The wine was delivered by a beautiful waitress. At first, every time he saw him, the waitress here would look at him with admiration. Because what he wants is one of the few kinds of spirits here. The name is Swili Shao, which means that after drinking this kind of wine, it feels like being barbecued by a fire in the ice and snow. The temper is extremely strong, and most boys are if he can't drink this kind of wine, his ability to drink is the opposite of his name. This kind of wine is one of the signature wines of this bar, but unfortunately not many people can drink it, so when the article came for the first time and drank a whole bottle of Snow Burning without being drunk, even the owner of the bar was alarmed. Although the age difference is not small, age is not a problem for the friendship between men. He was immediately cited as a confidant in the wine by the bar owner and became the first special guest of the bar. Since then, every time I came here, the bar owner greeted his employees. Whether he was or not, the guest would receive a special treat. At first he was a bit embarrassed, but he was drinking with the bar owner, the big man named Lei. After 2 times, the boss spoke truthfully to him. He didn't enjoy drinking all the year round. No matter how much he drank, he couldn't be addicted. Where can I find such a good opponent in alcohol? After a few times, the article stopped talking to him. You're welcome. He is not drinking now like when he first came, so he gobbled it up. Instead, he ordered a glass and savored slowly there. For him, the age of alcoholism has passed. Now is the time to taste. Of course he didn't say anything except Boss Lei. After listening to him, Boss Lei patted his shoulder and sighed at his confidant. The hot and sweet feeling in his mouth is an unparalleled enjoyment to him. You read www.uuganshu. It would be a waste of calm to drink it wholeheartedly. Holding a glass of wine, swaying gently in his hand, humming a small tune that no one can understand, squinting to observe all kinds of people in the bar under the dim light, and this gradually became his hobby. 1. In such a dim environment, facing strange people, human nature is more likely to burst out, and various things that are usually hidden in the depths of the soul are more likely to be exposed. It should be said that Boss Lei's girlfriend is better at doing business than he himself. It is said that Boss Lei's girlfriend is very confused about the layout of the fire when he comes to Agni once in a while, so he immediately embarked on reforms. Boss Lei is obviously a wife. Guan Yan, there is no opinion at all, and let his girlfriend make a big change in the bar. She divides the bar into 3 parts. One part is a circle of semi-enclosed small boxes hidden under the surrounding bright and dark lights, giving those who drink and talk a more private environment, and in the middle is a small ballroom, where the blood boils. The young people here come to vent their excess passion, and a circle of stools are added around the bar to make it more convenient for drinkers. As for the variety of wines, we have hired more professional bartenders, and we have all kinds of wines. This renewed arrangement has attracted more guests to the bar. People who are not too particular about the environment like the article feel more comfortable reading it. He also learned to taste wine slowly from that time. While the article was sitting there with his eyes closed and quietly enjoying his glass of wine and thinking about his thoughts, someone on the side greeted him suddenly. "Mister, there is no seat over there, please take a seat with you," said a clear and sweet female voice. There is no doubt that the bar is a place full of opportunities and excitement, which is known to all men. I have also encountered this kind of thing in previous articles. There are not enough seats. It is normal to take a seat. However, after knowing the number of the table, many people left, and then almost no one came to him for a seat. But he glanced to the side for a while, and found that there was actually a place on the side. I don't know why the woman came to him. The article swallowed the wine in his mouth and did not speak yet. Perhaps it was worried that the article could not hear her because of the noisy music. The woman got closer and said, "Mister, it's not very convenient over there, would you like to take a seat with you here?" As you get closer, a scent reaches the nose of the article. It is a relatively fresh and natural smell, not the smell of inferior cosmetics. The article looked a little under the dim light. It was a young white-collar woman with long shawl hair. She was wearing a light black professional suit with a short skirt underneath. She had a very good figure, slender waist, full and round buttocks. The legs are long and slender, and you can't see it below, but it's a good skeleton. The article patronizes and looks at it, and has not had time to speak. Under the dim light, unable to see the movement of the article, the lady glanced behind her, and then said in an anxious and apologetic tone, I'm sorry, I'm just sitting here for a while. Go, I won't disturb you. After finishing speaking, she sat down on one side without waiting for the article to reply, but with her back to the outside, it seemed that she was hiding from someone. The article raised his head, and his sharp eyes saw that a young man was squeezing from the crowd behind the lady. He knew what was going on at a glance. It's better not to mix things up. Just say whatever. He closed his eyes and tasted his wine. Hey, it's snow burning. It should be the smell of snow burning wine. The woman said with a bit of amazement. It seems that she was the one who had drunk it. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to treat this kind of wine just because of the smell of wine. The rare wine is recognized. Hearing what she said, the article was a little surprised. He seldom saw a woman drinking this wine. This wine is so strong that no one can bear it. He said with a little doubt, well, why, have you ever drunk it? Is this kind of wine? Few girls drink this kind of wine. Zheng Zhou didn't have a topic, she quickly continued and said, well, I have drunk it before. This taste is very fragrant and very special, so I remembered it when I smell it. In fact, she had only drank this by chance before. At that time, I was attracted by the aroma, and I drank so many glasses, but I didn't expect it to have such a great stamina and so drunk, so I was very impressed. The article screamed, it was a response to her. Between the question and the answer, the man behind was already up, and he approached the woman and said, Miss Lan, I didn't expect to be able to meet you here, it's a coincidence. He was a young man, he was a famous brand, but he looked ordinary, and he was so greasy and arrogant. When he heard this, he knew that Shiyu was a playboy. Hearing what she said, that Miss Lan frowned, and she seemed to move a little aside inadvertently, but the lights were dim and her movements were very slight. The didn't notice it, and thought to herself, as soon as he saw him hiding away, I didn't expect to be embellished by him, and I was in trouble tonight. But there is no way, I have to deal with it, and said a little jerkily, Young Master Li, it's such a coincidence, I didn't expect you to be here too. This guy is the son of a major director of the company, and an ignorant playboy. I was entangled by him as soon as I arrived at the head office. I can hide as often as I can. I am not in a good mood today, so I just came here to help me out, knowing where I would run into him. If he knew he was here, she wouldn't come even if he killed her. Seeing the beauty that day and night was right in front of him, he had been watching her for a long time. She was beautiful and temperamental, and he couldn't catch her at ordinary times. I didn't expect to meet her here today, but it is a rare good opportunity to see her in a black professional suit more beautiful than ever before, and nothing can be said today to let the delicacy slip away. Thinking of this, my saliva almost came out. He is already a veteran of Huakong. He has already developed a cheeky face. If you don't ask to sit down, he sits directly next to Miss Lan. He seems to be gentle, and his taste changes as soon as he opens his mouth. Today I can be with Miss Lan. It's really not easy to meet here. If you know that Miss Lan likes this place, I would have invited you to come here for a while. It's better to hit the sun if you choose a day, it's better to do this, I'll be the host today. First, congratulations, Miss Lan. High promotion, the future will be even more promising. Secondly, to celebrate our meeting, I admire Miss Lan's talents, and have always wanted to communicate with Miss Lan, but I have never found a chance. Please give me this face today. I also have to buy you 2 drinks. They are all high-sounding reasons, which makes it difficult for her to refuse casually. To refuse is to deny others face, unless she does not want to get involved in this company. Just as this Miss Lan was thinking of a way to get away, young Master Li over there was already preparing to clear the field. When I was about to make a drink, I realized that there was a third party on the table. This was not good, it was ruining the atmosphere. Li Gongzi stared at the article in the dim light and took a closer look, and found that he was also a young man, dressed in a normal style, and seemed to be an ordinary person, so he said to the article, "Friend, I have something to discuss with this lady today. You see if you can change positions. Today, I was a little unhappy at first. When I heard him speak, the article was not happy. If you ask someone to give up your seat, you have to be polite. Besides, he came first when he sat down. He didn't speak. Now, why should he give up his seat?" For a while, the music was so high that the article deliberately pretended not to hear it, and was still humming its own tune there. Seeing that the other party did not respond at all, Li Gongzi was a little unhappy, whether he wanted to get angry, but think about it is not the time, it is not the place, endured a sigh of relief, and coughed dryly and said, "Friend, give me some face. I have something to discuss with this young lady. You change your position, how about today's expenses, how about it?" He is really ashamed to be able to say this, and if he changes the occasion, he will have to greet him a long time ago. People give this guy who doesn't know the current affairs a bit of color. But when I heard that, the article was not a good man or a believer. You still want to do bad things with this attitude. How do you say today will also ruin your good things? He also snorted, picked up the wine glass, and took another sip. Swayed there again, and didn't even pay attention to him. The meaning of this is obvious. If you don't give face or turn your face, you won't be able to do it. What's more, it's not enough to be slapped in front of the beautiful woman. The anger of Li Gongzi is not suppressed and can't be suppressed. It became red, and there was a tendency to become red and purple, and he muttered, "You guy, you don't give face so much. I want to," but did not say the following words. It seems that he can't think of a good excuse for a while. You have to stand up and prepare for an attack. Seeing that things are a bit out of control, although this is good for me, I don't want to hurt the article. After all, the trouble started by myself. Thinking of this, the Miss Lan next to him stood up and said, "No, this is my friend. He invited me to come today. Let's sit together. He is not very talkative, please don't be too much, Li Gongzi. Mind." While saying that, Miss Lan glanced at the article secretly and issued a pleading look, hoping that he would not reveal it. Turned his head and introduced to the article, "This is our company director's son Li Jun, Mr. Li, he has a lot of wealth." Although she is not satisfied with Miss Lan introducing herself like this, she seems to be an incompetent second-generation ancestor. Although he is indeed, this beauty still recognizes her own value. Seeing this, Miss Lan is pleasing to the eye, at least she is a beautiful woman, and this Li Jun made it clear that it is not a good thing, and the article doesn't mind helping her once. He just happened to express the grievances in his heart today, so he stood up and took a sigh of relief. Said, "Hello, I am her friend's article. I am studying in Xingai Academy. This time I want to gather with Miss Lan and talk about personal matters. And it shows without a trace that we have something to do today, so you can stand aside." Miss Lan at the side was really overjoyed when she saw the article so cooperating with her, and she couldn't help but she couldn't show it on her face. Of course, she just looked at Li Jun with an embarrassed expression, and said vainly, "I'm sorry, Li Gongzi, it's not very convenient today, how about another day? The lights in the bar are dim, otherwise Li Jun will definitely see through the smile hidden deep in her eyes." Li Jun is not an idiot. Of course, I see that the situation is not right. The relationship between this article and Miss Lan is rather weird. Miss Lan has been hiding from herself. She also squeezed this way after seeing him. It doesn't seem to be a friend at all. Miss Lan is probably an excuse, and this article is deliberately disrupting the situation with him, and 80% of them are also interested in this piece of sweet meat. Thinking of this, Li Jun was furious. He had never heard of the name of the article. What kind of thing is it? It not only disturbs his situation, but also wants to grab his beauty. I have never finished with you today. I felt angry, but I still wanted to keep a bit of scale in front of Miss Lan, with a barely smile on his face and said, "It's okay, you talk." After finishing speaking, he turned away reluctantly, staring at the article before leaving. At a glance, I was already thinking about how to retaliate against him. Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com article can clearly see the cold light in his eyes. Seeing that the article helped her drive away the playboy, Miss Lan stretched out her hand and happily said to the article, "Mr. Wen, hello, thank you so much for today, otherwise I might really be in trouble. I almost forgot. I introduced myself, my last name is Lan, and my name is Lan Yu." Upon seeing this, the article hurriedly stretched out her hand, grabbed her small hand, and squeezed it lightly. It turned out that the fingers were slender and smooth and tender. The feeling of holding it in the hand was like grabbing a ball of warm fragrant nephrite, delicate and moving. The article quickly awoke from this touching feeling, and immediately let go after a grip. Just let the eat turtles, he was also very happy, the troubles in his heart seemed to be relieved a lot, and smiled and said to Lan Yu, "You're welcome, Miss Lan, it's just a matter of hand, and I can't bear it anymore. That playboy, who made him want to grab my seat?" After saying this, both of them laughed. Lan Yu smiled relaxedly, waved his hand and said, "Hee, anyway, I have to thank you today, otherwise I don't know how to get rid of this plasticine-like guy, so I will invite you to drink. 1 glass. Before the article agreed, she waved to the waiter, and ordered 2 more glasses of wine, both of which were cooked in snow. After relaxing, she wanted to try this kind of wine again. The two chatted casually while drinking. Lan Yu introduced her experience. She has been working in that company since she graduated. She has only been promoted to the head office after 2 years of hard work. She didn't know that she was entangled by this and couldn't offend him. Her family situation is not good. The little money she has earned in the past few years has been used to subsidize the family. I hope her parents can live a better life. Unexpectedly, life had just picked up, and the old father was seriously ill again in the hospital. It was the time to spend money, so the current job is very important to her, so she tried her best to endure the harassment of this playboy. She didn't want to lose this hard-won job, otherwise she would have quit a long time ago. After all, she can still distinguish between dignity and the life of the family, and that has also taken care of this. To her softly. In contrast, the introduction of the article is much simpler. Both his parents are there, but he likes freedom, so he came out early on. When he meets a suitable opportunity, he will study in Xingai Academy now. There are 2 younger siblings in the family, enough for parents to worry about. Maybe they were all wandering away, with a common topic. There were 1,000 cups of wine every confidant, and after a while, they drank several cups alone, but now everything seems normal. Lan Yu still wants to call, but was stopped by the article. He is very aware of the power of this wine. Today, she drank a lot, but he has not drunk so much in a long time, and it will be ugly when he is drunk. If you don't drink, the two are still talking, the article is fine, but it's okay to say what you should say, and you don't say much about what you shouldn't say. Lan Yu couldn't do it anymore. Not only did he pour out some of his usual interesting things, embarrassing things, and even a lot of very private things, he said without hesitation. After listening, I felt that something was wrong with the article. When I thought about it, I knew where the problem was. It is estimated that Lan Yu was drunk. Just now, she had drunk several cups more or less without falling down. It's not easy on the table, and being able to chat with him is really amazing. The article carefully looked at her eyes, and she was glaring like silk. Her eyes were not too clear, she was a little out of focus, and her face was flushed with alcohol, but in the dim light, it was true that she was not paying attention. Can't tell, it seems that she is also a bit drunk. Now send her back quickly while she is still a little sane, otherwise she will be in trouble. The article restrained himself and said to the beauty, "Sister Yu, it's too early now. Let's go back. I'll take a taxi for you." After talking for a while, the two of them became familiar with each other a lot and called each other "get close" a lot. Lan Yu waved her hand, shook her head and said in a tired voice, "It's okay, let's drink some more, we won't go to work tomorrow, let's talk again, Sister Yu likes to chat with you the most, there is no pressure at all." I was about to pour it into my mouth, and didn't even notice that the wine in the glass was finished early. Upon hearing this, the article knew that it was broken, and 80% of it was drunk. It was troublesome now, and I said helplessly, "Sister Yu, let's go, I have to go to class tomorrow." Fortunately, after all she could understand the article, Lan Yu whispered and whispered, "I'm going to class tomorrow?" "Okay, then let's go back." After that, she stood up and wanted to say hello. The waiter checked out, but she couldn't stand up swayingly, even the direction of greeting was wrong. There was no other way, the article had to stand up, sit down with Lan Yu's support first, and say, "Sister Yu, you can take a break first, and I will do the checkout." After that, he called the waiter over. Hearing that he was going to check out, Lan Yu was a little anxious, and said, "How can I let you do it? I invite you." After saying that, she struggled to get up and pay the bill, but at the moment she was drinking and her legs were strong. Weak, how could it be possible to stand up, collapse on the table without a good image, but still restless, still rushing to pay the bill? No way, the article had no choice but to say loudly in her ear, "I will invite you this time, and the next time you invite me." After speaking, he asked the waiter to pay the bill, but Lan Yu looked like he was about to get up, but stood no matter what. "Can't get up." After paying the bill, the article said to Lan Yu, "Sister Yu, let's go back." After speaking, he wanted to help Lan Yu from the table. Lan Yu herself was struggling to stand up, but at the moment the stamina of the wine had already come up. She only felt that her body was weak and her limbs were weak. Although her mind was still a little clear, she couldn't stand up at all, even with the help of the article. No way, the article had to hold one of her arms with one hand, then put the other hand under Lan Yu's armpit, finally lifted her up to her feet, even though she was full of warmth at the moment. The fresh and natural scent once again filled the nose, but the article has no intention of thinking about these things now. How can he get Lan Yu home with his headache now? The biggest problem is that he doesn't know where Lan Yu lives. It seems that this hero's rescue of the United States is really not easy to do. There were a lot of people in the bar. The article helped Lan Yu and finally squeezed out. A few guys in the middle saw a beautiful woman who was drunk and wanted to take advantage of it, but was cleverly blocked by the article. He didn't want to stir up trouble. Finally, holding Lan Yu to the door, after not taking a few steps, the article saw a few sturdy big men coming towards him, their eyes fixed on Lan Yu, although they tried their best to pretend to be nothing. But the article instinctively felt that they were directed at themselves. Sure enough, he looked over carefully and saw them staring at them secretly in a shop nearby. It seemed that these guys were sent by him. The article felt helpless, although he was not afraid of these guys, but now holding Lan Yu he could not spare a third hand to deal with these guys. Just as he was a little anxious, a voice came from behind and said, "Mr. Wen, there is a rental over there." He turned his head and saw that it was the bartender who saw that he brought a drunk person. It might be inconvenient. He followed and stopped a car for him. The article quickly said to him, "Okay, you help me kill her." After saying that, two people helped Lan Yu and walked over quickly. The big guys behind saw that they were about to get in the car. He also stepped forward, and it seemed that the target was definitely them. The waiter also saw the malicious guys, and hurriedly speeded up his pace. I just helped Lan Yu into the car, and the article was about to follow up. A big man came up, put one hand on the shoulder of the article, and said horizontally, "Boy, someone is looking for you, come with us." Several people came up and surrounded him. When the waiter saw the trouble of someone looking for an article, he used his eyes to indicate whether he wanted to help. After all, the article is a friend of their boss, and there are some good players in their bar, so they are not afraid of these guys. The article shook his head slightly, signaled that he was not using it, turned around and said to the big man who grabbed his shoulder, "I don't have time to waste anybody who wants to see me, and ask him to come over by himself." After that, he turned around and prepared to get in the car. "Boy, don't toast or eat fine wine, you shamelessly give you a face." After speaking, he pulled the body of the article hard, clenched the other hand into a fist, and punched the article in the face. They were going to hit the article. It doesn't matter if there are any excuses for the article. The few guys on the side watched him with a smile. They all thought that one person could handle the article, and a few more people were just afraid that the article would run away. The body of the article was pulled over by him casually, but his fist did not touch the face of the article at all, but was intercepted by the article. He opened his palm and pinched his huge fist and pressed down forcefully. The huge pain made the big man had to hold his wrist with his other hand. His body gradually bends down, and finally fell to his knees. This scene dazzled everyone. No one would have thought that the article would be like this. Awesome! Hearing a painful moan in the mouth of the big guy who fell on his knees, the few people around understood it, knowing that they had encountered hard stubble, looked at each other, and rushed forward together. It seemed that they knew that fighting alone was not enough, and it was going to be a group fight. It was getting late, and there was no one on the road. Even if someone saw such a few big guys, they might not dare to come up. The bartender secretly ran back to move the rescuers. Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com. Seeing a few people rushed up, the article backhanded the guy who was kneeling in front of him thrown out. God knows how much strength it would take to throw such an adult man out like this, and a guy who will rush towards you. It was knocked down. This move was beyond everyone's expectations. While everyone was stunned, the article knocked all the guys to the ground with 3 punches and kicks. He had secretly activated his abilities. How could the power be blocked by a few ordinary people? Under a single blow, how many people they all lay down on the ground, and the severe pain caused several people to huddle on the ground, unable to move at all, and could only make a low groan. And at this lightning-fast moment, the article has withdrawn its own abilities, and no one sees the slight beastly features, including the taxi driver who is close at hand. He clapped his hands lightly, as if patted a few flies at random, and the article looked at the direction of the playboy, seemingly intentionally or unconsciously. He was frightened when he saw it, and then got into the car and told the driver to drive and stay. There was a mess outside. When the waiter at the bar brought people out to see such a scene, the sturdy guys were helping each other and struggling to get up from the ground. Their expressions looked painful, while the article was sitting in the car and leaving quickly. He didn't understand how the article dealt with this group of guys, but the people who knew would never tell him. As soon as the article got in the car and sat in the car, the driver's master turned his head and praised with a thumbs up, "Boy, good job, good skill. These guys are bullying and bullying all day long. I finally learned a lesson today. See if they dare to bully people casually in the future. Where are you going?" Although in a state of excitement, he has not forgotten his job. Hearing what the driver said, the article was happy at first, and then he started to get headaches. He didn't know where Lan Yu lived, but he couldn't tell the driver so he smiled helplessly at him and said, "Master, you go ahead first, I will ask you a little bit and then tell you." Hearing this weird answer, the middle-aged driver master smiled silently and said, "Well, you think it over and tell me as soon as possible. I just need to collect money for running around. You have to hurry up." Ah! The uncle driver also quietly talked to them, and after speaking, he started slowly along the car. Unintentionally listening to the humor of the driver's uncle, Lan Yun let out a sigh of lucidity when he was blown by the cool breeze outside just now. Hearing her making a sound, the article quickly grabbed his arm and shook it, trying to make her sober, and said to her, "Sister you, wake up, tell me where you live, I'll take you back." But after listening to his words, Lan Yu didn't react at all. There was no way. He had to shook her vigorously with 2 hands from the side, with more strength, just hope she can wake up. It's a pity that things went counterproductive. Lan Yu spoke, but she said in a dream, "Don't disturb me, I'm so sleepy, let me sleep." After finishing speaking, she waved her hand, as if trying to drive away something like a fly. And she happened to touch the article. She put both hands on his neck as if hugging him, and then leaned her whole body on his body. Obviously it was much more comfortable, and she hummed again. 2 beeps, continue her dream. It's over, now she really fell asleep. The article knows that drunk people are not easy to wake up at all, but still holding a trace of hope, she shouted in Lan Yu's ear, "Sister Yu, wake up soon," but the only answer to him was Lan Yu's soft cry, a sweet smell of wine flicking across his nose, without any other reaction, faintly under the dim light from outside the car. It can be seen that her sleeping beautiful face has a smile of satisfaction. It seems that she fell asleep in a good mood. Although the article has many ways to deal with those big gangsters, but for the drunk Lan Yu, he has no tricks at all. "Young man, no need to bark. Your girlfriend seems to be drunk, and you can't wake her up. Just send her back, or just send it to you. Besides, drunk people need someone to take care of you. Where do you live?" the driver said with a smile in front. In the eyes of the driver, they are a pair of young lovers, a young man with a bit of shame, a young girl, and a typical city lover. He sees a lot of these little men and women who are drunk and wandering on the streets of the city every month. "I have to send so many pairs. There is no other way. It seems that I have to take her to where I live first. Fortunately, I rented a house outside. If I live in school, it will be troublesome. The academy's logistics management for students is very relaxed. It not only provides dormitories, but also allows students to rent out houses by themselves. Of course, if there is a problem, you have to take care of it yourself." The article didn't want to be bound by those rules. From the beginning, he rented a house directly outside. If it were a few years earlier, he would definitely have to go to the hotel to open the room, but it would be dangerous. She moved a little bit so that Lan Yu's head rested better on her shoulders, so that she could sleep more comfortably, and then told the driver her address, number 123, Xing Guang Road. "It seems that I know the place." The driver didn't ask any more questions, so he went straight to the destination, and talked a few words with the article. "Young man, you're still a student, you have a girlfriend so soon, now your young people are really amazing, and I started making friends so early. It seems that this uncle is also an enlightened person, and he speaks very witty and humorous." "No, she is not my girlfriend, but my sister. By the way, uncle, how do you know that I am a student?" The article defended it, and then raised its own question. "Oh, a lot of students live there. You know we don't have anything else here. We have a lot of students. Over time, our eyesight has been tempered. I think you are about the same age and live there." "Of course it's a student. Uncle, I was also a college student back then, but unfortunately I didn't read the book to the end, otherwise I wouldn't drive out." The driver uncle seemed to be very talkative. At the beginning of the article, I had a chat with the enthusiastic driver uncle. After shaking for a while, he fell asleep in a daze. He drank a lot tonight, and now his spirit of alcohol is up. The uncle driver talked alone for a long time, but couldn't hear any movement in the back seat. When he looked back, he found that both of them were asleep. They smiled and stopped talking. They drove quietly. Fortunately, there were people on the road at night. Not a lot, so he rarely even trumpets the horn, so he seems to be a careful uncle. Hey, the young man wakes up and he is in the place. The uncle driver stopped the car and pushed back the article. After all, his alertness was not bad. Although he was a little drunk, he woke up as soon as the driver uncle touched him. He looked up and saw that he was at the place. Then he saw that Lan Yu was still asleep, paid for the car, and took her. It was forced out, and she still wanted to stay there and couldn't get up. He dangled Lan Yu around a few times, trying to wake her up, or how could he get in the house? He didn't dare to hug her, not that he couldn't move, but he didn't dare to hug her. Most of the people living in this neighborhood were students. If an acquaintance saw him, he would not be able to wash her after jumping into the Yellow River. In the end, there was no way. The article had no choice but to follow the example of coming out of the bar, holding it hand in hand, and leading him toward his house. With this shaking, he tasted the warm fragrance and warm jade full of embrace. At this moment, the night is quiet, and there is no interruption. Although it has a lot of alcohol, the sensitive nose can still clearly smell the fresh and natural scent from the blue rain body, which is a natural and pure. It feels that, as she herself said, she rarely uses cosmetics. What's more terrible is that Lan Yu's body kept leaning against him, relying on the article softly like a boneless snake. She couldn't stand it herself. Every further step of the article, Lan Yu her body was about to lean against him and swayed, her soft and boneless body kept rubbing against his body, and it was really lustful to get him, and her throat was so dry that it was about to smoke. Although the night was still at night, no one saw it, and the face of the article was still flushed. I only felt that a strange flame in my heart was burning, and even my whole body had some strange reflections. I thought, this good man is really hard to do. Although this distance is not far, but in the feeling of the article at this time, he has walked the longest and one of the most difficult roads. When he walked to his door, the article felt that he was sweating on his head. It's dripping, which feels really strange. When he reached the door, he half held Lan Yu in this way, and she would collapse as soon as she let go. He didn't dare to let go, but he didn't have a third hand to open the door with the key. After thinking about it, the article first leaned Blue Rain on a stone chair on the lawn in front of the house, then ran over to open the door quickly, then turned on the light, and then ran to the Blue Rain quickly, sitting here in the middle of the night. It is easy to catch a cold on a stone bench. But when he wandered back and forth a few times, sitting down and standing up again, and being blown by the cool breeze, Lan Yu opened his drunken eyes in a daze, holding on to the article. It looked like it was I wanted to talk, but when I opened my mouth and didn't say anything, I vomited with a wow, not only soiled my skirt, but also splashed the clothes holding her article. Although the wine is good, everyone knowing that the thing that I spit out after drinking it is unpleasant, and a strong smell of alcohol mixed with peculiar smell immediately spreads out. After vomiting out, her legs softened and she leaned on the article again. This time, the clothes of the two people were completely reimbursed. It won't work if I continue to do so. I am irritated by this smell and my throat starts to feel a bit bitter. I have to go in immediately to wash off the smell. Thinking of this, he held his breath and Lan Yu's legs, ignoring the feeling of being supple and unusual, and ignoring the dirty things on his body, so he hugged her across his chest and walked into the room. Went straight to the bathroom, put Lan Yu in the bathtub, took off his dirty clothes first, and prepared to help Lan Yu wash off those dirty things on his body. But now the question arises. Where did a boy do this kind of thing? He can't do it when he wants to undress and bathe a woman. But there is no other way. It's so late now. I definitely can't find anyone to help. I can't let Lan Yu sleep in dirty clothes, let alone call her sister Yu. Forget it. It seems that it is impossible not to do it. Gritting his teeth, he unbuttoned the Blue Rain suit. There was a lot of vomiting stuff on the suit. If you don't wash it, you can't wear it. The white shirt in the jacket is also stained a bit, so you have to take it off, but take it off again. It's about to see the meat, the article flushed, and tremblingly unbuttoned the white shirt in the Blue Rain. The big beads of sweat on his head fell down, and he was so sober now, and his heart kept going. Pray that she won't wake up at this time, or she will kill him immediately. Fortunately, Lan Yu was deeply drunk and slept very heavily. Even if she helped her to undress her, she did not wake her up. She even knew that she would take off the dirty clothes in accordance with the article, and obediently raised her arms. The article was scared to death, and it was another prayer. Don't wake up at this time. Unbuttoning the button and taking off his shirt, the towering twin peaks immediately stood up, and the white bra immediately caught his eye, reflecting on the crystal clear skin, and a moving scent came immediately. It is the most natural temptation for a woman, not to mention that Lan Yu is drunk now, and some small movements made unconsciously are extremely alluring. The article didn't have much contact with this aspect at first. Seeing this situation, I only felt a rush of warm blood from bottom to top, rushing straight to the brain. I only felt that a stream of heat in the nostrils was flowing outwards slowly, and it was not affected by him. Controlled by the control, the heart thumped and throbbed violently, and could not be suppressed, as if it was about to jump out. What's wrong? How can this happen? The article only feels that Lan Yu's crystal clear white body seems to be twisting in front of his eyes, and that fresh and alluring fragrance hits him wave after wave. He smelled much stronger than before, making him dizzy and unable to control himself. In the mist, he didn't know what he had done, just doing something unconsciously. But if there are other people here and now, you will see such a scene. A big pervert is desecrating a beautiful drunk woman, the young woman is only in underwear, the coat is pulled aside, the obscene the man was rubbing the girl with his hands, but there was no further movement. In this weird situation, the movement lasted for a long time, but the two sides did not react further. Suddenly, a slight moan of came from Lan Yu's mouth, as if he couldn't bear his caressing. But hearing it in his ears was like a bolt from the blue. The article seemed to wake up all of a sudden, and he shook his head to throw the foggy feeling out of his mind. But when he paid attention, he found that his hands were stroking back and forth on the crystal clear like blue rain and white jade. The white bra had been skewed and was about to fall off. Most of the snow-white pigeons were already exposed. When he came out, the last two spots of spring hidden deep in his eyes were about to be discovered by him. The soft touch felt like a stream of electric currents quickly passed from his hands to his brain, stirring his blood, speeding up his heartbeat, the taste he had never tasted before. How could this happen? When the article was shocked, he immediately withdrew his somewhat unwilling hands. His hands seemed to be nostalgic for the soft feeling, and wanted to resist the instructions of the brain. What's the matter? My proud self-control has gone. What is the point of that little whine? I woke up a long time ago, but why can't I control my consciousness and actions? The article only feels that the blood is surging at this moment, and the hands and feet are not under control. There seems to be a vigorous energy in the body that is slowly gathering and flowing. Could it be that the time has come again? He didn't dare to continue thinking about it. It wouldn't work to go on like this. He had to find a quiet place to solve this problem. Looking back, I saw Lan Yu's skin that had been stroked and turned a little pink and crystal clear. The article wanted to solve this big problem first, otherwise Lan Yu would wake up tomorrow morning and don't make a fuss. I saw that he was not there. I didn't think he escaped in fear of sin, and he couldn't let her lie here just like this. He didn't feel relieved that he would have to be sick tomorrow. He couldn't do this kind of thing, so he should hurry up and help her. Pack it up and talk about it. Calm-minded, the calm mentality he had cultivated for so long helped him a lot. He had difficulty returning to the state of his former mind, and the mentality he had exercised could not be easily changed. The article helped Lan Yu take off his black skirt without squinting his eyes and tidy up the underwear that was slanted by him. It seemed that the crystal skin, the pure whiteness and the mysterious area covered by it suddenly lost its appeal. He seemed to be while doing something that couldn't be normal, that moving body seemed to be like a mummy, and it didn't appeal to her anymore. He quickly wiped Lan Yu's body, and took her to his own bedroom, where he slept on his bed. Although others looked a bit sloppy, his bedroom was not messy. She covered her with a quilt and left a note to the effect that she was drunk and her clothes were soiled, so she brought her back and took off the dirty clothes. He went out first in a hurry, and she left. Just help him close the door at that time. In fact, as the article thinks, he hasn't practiced for nothing in the past few years. It is true that his body has been in a state of life. Basically, it can be said that it is a moment of life and death. Although it is a bit exaggerated, it is almost the same. The current state of the article, it's time for an ability person to advance, and the state is a bit unstable and one can't handle it well, maybe it will really hang. The article is about the guardian family. His parents are both supernatural beings, and they also inherited special abilities. His father is a rare spiritual warrior. Because of his very developed spiritual power, this kind of person is basically certain to be genius, so he became a mad scientist, and his mother was a beast warrior, and the article was their first child. But when the article was born, no matter how it was checked, it could not be found to have alienated genes. It was basically certain that the child would not be a supernatural person, which made his parents and the elders of his parents also deeply affected. Shock, they are all proud of having these special abilities, and the child they give birth to will be an ordinary person, which makes them unable to believe. So they frantically used various methods to test the children, and the children were dying by them. Of course, they didn't know these things. In the end, the husband and wife saw no results, so they used the last resort. The father of the article was a lucky man who survived the destruction of the Devourer in the Forest of Warcraft 22 years ago. After the energy exploded in the Devourer, the most important thing in the brain, the part of the brain where the mutant energy is located, fell on him. In front of, although the explosion was damaged, most of them were still preserved. He recognized them and hid them secretly. Then they immediately extracted the Zaiwansua by any means, but they have not found a suitable one. Test subject. The father of the article was discovered by his mother when he was studying the Zaiwansua of the monster. She also learned the secret, but she didn't tell it, just not allowing him to study the thing. Unexpectedly, they wanted to use this thing on their children, and they did use it, and then a crazy test, but still did not find anything, and finally gave up helplessly. Since it is basically definitely not a supernatural person, maybe there are experimental reasons. The article has been a bit dull when I was a child, and was discriminated against in the process of growing up, especially after having younger siblings, because his younger siblings found their birth test he contains alienated genes, and he has shown his ability as a supernatural person early, and is inherited from his parents' high-level genes. As a result, his younger siblings have always looked down upon their brothers, and the relationship between brothers and siblings has never been great. It wasn't until the article was 13 years old that he occasionally discovered the whole story in a secret experiment notebook of his father. There is no way that this is the habit of scientists. Records are an indispensable part of their lives. So later he came to open a house at the age of 14 and went out to explore. But what I didn't expect was that when he was 16 years old, his abilities somehow awakened, and he advanced for the first time, but he did not have the single ability like his parents and his younger siblings, but showed complex compound ability. Living in such an environment, even if you haven't eaten pork, you have seen pigs walking, so in the first article, I quietly found a place to spend my first evolutionary crisis. The second advancement was at the age of 19. After helping the Black Hawk defeat the invaders and consuming the energy in the brains of those abilities, it triggered his second advancement. Yukanshu. The advancement of Com was unforgettable to him. In the past 2 years, he recalled the situation of his advancement. The first time was because the spirit was greatly stimulated, and the second time was because of absorbing external energy, and found that the energy in his body was actually not very stable. Unlike normal, the advancement of the supernatural being is probably related to the game of spirit devouring. In fact, he also guessed that there is a big difference. Due to the explosive stimulation of the energy before the death of the soul and the incompleteness proposed by the intellectual source element in the brain, the huge energy contained in it is unstable, but when he reformed it, it was still it's very small, and the energy is too fragile. This energy has been lurking wherever it is, and it is also faintly suppressing the development of his own mutation energy. When he is stimulated by the outside, it will explode violently, and the two explosions caused him two advanced stages. However, due to the lack of his own energy and the huge and disproportionate energy left over by the devourer, he could not control the energy in his body when he advanced. Both advancements were like walking a tightrope, wandering on the edge of danger. Unexpectedly, he drank too much today, and then was stimulated by the blue rain. The mental instability caused energy fluctuations. It seemed that the third step was about to begin. Obviously he had to find a secluded place. Get through this crisis. If he is beastly here, it is estimated that someone will come to catch him, and he has found this place a long time ago. Fortunately, he had the experience of evolving alone the first 2 times. He discovered that evolution is actually a process of accumulating energy, qualitative change, and impacting the transformation of the body. If this energy can be controlled, evolution will undoubtedly be very easy to succeed, but where there are a few people who can make good use of this violent power, so the effect of evolution is different depending on the degree of energy utilization. In addition to using his own power to control this energy, the spiritual energy played an unexpected role in the guidance of this power. Although the violent power in the body was no longer under his control, he also inherited his father's mental abnormality. It's more troublesome to exercise the energy, but the exercise of mental power is relatively easy, and there are many unexpected pleasures, so since I found my mental power awakened, the article has often used various means exercises to use it, so that he has a strong ability to control the intensity and control of spiritual power. Now he is using his spiritual power to guide the evolution process and protect his blood. If someone with a supernatural power sees this scene with their own eyes, they will find that in addition to the white light peculiar to power mutation evolution, there is also a faint layer of blue light moving around with the white energy dragon, which is a little bit, it looks like the evolution of spiritual energy, but the situation in the article itself is more complicated. It belongs to people with special complex abilities. This situation is basically invisible to the intelligence source fighters who basically have a single ability. If it was discovered, it would have been dissected long ago. The higher the number of advancements, the greater the agitation of energy. In addition to the particularity of the article itself, the huge energy in the body has long been beyond his control. For guiding such a huge energy, his little spirit, the power can't last for long. After I don't know how long, the mental power is finally used up. The article just feels that there is a rush in front of me, and there is a huge pain in my brain, and I fainted, letting the huge energy be in my mind. The body is raging, and as for the result, it can only be resigned. But he said, drunk and sleeping Lan Yu, it is rare to have a good night's sleep, a deep sleep until dawn, after sleeping for 7 or 8 hours, finally woke up because of dry mouth and tongue. Opened her beautiful eyes, stretched out her white arms like a lotus root and jade, moved around, stretched her waist, sat up, the quilt slipped off her body, revealing an infinitely beautiful figure, and I felt my body is a little cold, something is wrong. With an exclamation of awe, Lan Yu finally realized that this was not her bedroom, and that she was not sleeping in her own bed. The simple and clear decoration, simple furnishings with masculine features, especially the pair that looked huge to her. The incomparable men's slippers made her basically affirm that this was a man's bedroom, and then related to her half-naked body, her first reflection was that she was not eaten by that dude. Ah, there was another series of screams. I really can't see that such a soft-spoken, quiet girl screams and her voice is not lost to others. Fortunately, the soundproofing effect of this house is pretty good. Otherwise, if the neighbors heard such a screaming scream, they would definitely think that some murder had happened, and they would have called the police a long time ago. I found that under my screaming scream, there was no movement in the house at all, no reaction at all, and it was considered that I had been away from home for many years. I encountered a lot of various situations. After a lot of trials and hardships, Lan Yu he immediately calmed down and began to think about the ins and outs of the whole thing. Yes, yesterday I thought about the news that my old father's condition was getting worse, and my family asked me to send money back to see my father. But all of my savings were sent back. Wherever I have any money left, I went to the bar alone when I was troubled. Going for a booze, I didn't know that I ran into that Li Jun. Fortunately, a boy named Wen helped her drive that guy away, and then they continued to talk, and then it seemed that they were drunk, and then everything else. I don't know, now it seems that the boy brought her back. Thinking of this, Lan Yu finally picked up the matter. It seems that this should be the article's house. I can't see that the house is still neat and tidy. It doesn't look like a boy's bedroom. It's so clean. She doesn't know the basis of the article. Not much is available. With this feeling, she had time to come back and think about her own problems. The article brought her back. Only a set of intimate underwear is left on her body. Then he took off 80% of the clothes. Take a closer look. There is no special feeling in the body, and it seems that it is still intact, which relieves her a lot. Thinking of this, she blushed for a while. Although she is not young, she has had 1 or 2 boyfriends, but she is still a genuine innocent body. This jade body can be regarded as icy and clean, at least no man has touched it. However, those boyfriends have never touched them before, and I didn't expect that this new friend would be feasted for the first time today. A certain old man once said, if a woman falls drunk in front of you, what you do, then that woman will slap you and fall in love with you. If you do nothing, then that woman will love you. Article, article, he yelled a few times, and wanted him to take clothes for himself. How could he see people like this? There was still no reaction in the room. It seemed that there was really no one. Of course, if someone had just been there, she should show up when she screamed, and it was truly safe now. It's rare to get up in a relaxed suit and see how early it is to go to work. I went to ask for my today. I made a phone call and reported a vacation to the company. I went back to the article bed and jumped a few times. Maybe I vented yesterday and I feel today's mood. It is rare and good. Lan Yu rolled back and forth on the bed several times again, and then became happily, and began to look carefully at the environment she was in. Soon she found the message of the article on the desk, knew the ins and outs of the matter, and saw that it was true yesterday. Fortunately, this article is not bad, at least he helped her, and he is not in danger. Without seeing her clothes, she found a white shirt in the wardrobe of the article to wear. Since there is no one in the room, there is no need to look for pants. Anyway, the shirt is big enough to wrap up most of her, blue. You walked around the house barefoot, and the floor was very clean, unlike the style of ordinary boys. Just as Lan Yu was spinning around the house, the phone rang suddenly. Thinking it was an article call, Lan Yu hurried over to answer the phone. As soon as Lan Yu answered the phone, she couldn't wait to speak, and asked, "Hey, is it an article?" "Of course, not, but Sima Wenlong called over there. He was calling to ask why the article did not come to class." This was the first time he saw him. Unexpectedly, he called, but a girl answered him. He has been friends for 2 years now. He doesn't know that there are female friends in the article, but she obviously knows the article. Otherwise, why would she ask? When surprised, she subconsciously speaks and answers. Both of them were a little surprised. There was a short silence on the phone, and for a while, no one knew what to say. It was Sima Wenlong who reacted first. He said politely, "Ahem, hello, I am a classmate of the article, my name is Sima, the article did not come to class today, is he not at home?" Although he basically knows that the article is not at home, Sima Wenlong still asked. He is not at home, and I didn't see him in the morning. Did you find anything to do with him? In fact, he just got up, but Lan Yu was embarrassed to answer him like that. Oh, if he comes back, please tell him that another classmate with the surname Sima finds him, Sima Wenlong said. Okay, as soon as he comes back, I will tell him. Lan Yu wrote down the incident in the notebook beside the phone. Okay, thank you, goodbye. Although Sima Wenlong is full of curiosity now, he can't ask, such a fresh and sweet voice, she must be a good girl, but he knows all the girls I know, but I have never heard this voice before, and according to what she said, she still lived in the article last night. As far as he knew, there was only one bed in the article. Who is this woman? This question let's just wait to ask about the article. He is embarrassed to ask now. He is now looking forward to seeing the article even more urgently than Lan Yu. Okay, goodbye. Lan Yu also hung up the phone. Knowing that the article is a student, Lan Yu thought he was going to school, but now that he knows that he didn't go to school at all, then where can she go? I won't be too shy, I am embarrassed to show up, but I can't think about it. If you want to hide from her, going to school is the best excuse. Why play missing? Is he so coincidental? Suddenly there was such an urgent matter. She didn't know that it was caused by her at all, but now it's up to her. I couldn't figure it out, so I didn't want to, so I continued to shop around. From the bedroom to the living room, from the living room to the kitchen, turning around, finally found in the bathtub my clothes stained with vomit, and there were dirty clothes on the side of the article, and the same was stained with vomit. Rushan, Lan Yu finally affirmed that her clothes were taken off from the article, but she didn't expect that she was so drunk that she didn't even know that she was barely taken off by others. However, the dirty clothes were not washed, which made Lan Yu a little surprised. The washing machine was there, and these dirty clothes could be handled with a simple effort. He didn't have time to do such a simple thing. It seems that he is indeed out in a hurry. The clothes were piled there, and the smell was not small. Lan Yu quickly washed the clothes out. He was going to wear them for a while. By the way, the clothes of the article were also washed. After wandering around, there was no trace of anyone. Although Lan Yu was a little confused, she finally felt relieved. After all, she was a girl, and beside her, she was constantly peeping at her like the playboy. A beautiful person, this makes her staying alone at all times to maintain a high degree of vigilance, so as not to make a mistake and become an eternal hate. After finally confirming that she was safe, Lan Yu finally relieved from the nervous mood when she first got up. After letting go, she immediately found a faint smell coming from her body, which seemed to be the drink yesterday. As a result, she can still smell a weird smell on her body. Girls generally have a little bit of cleanliness, how can they tolerate such a smell on their bodies? Lan Yu is no exception. She flipped through the wardrobe of the article inside and out, and finally found 2 suitable clothes and 2 clean bath towels, and immediately went to take a bath. Taking off his big shirt and her underwear, showing her rugged body, Lan Yu stood in the bathtub and allowed the warm water to slide over her body. After rushing for several times, she felt that her body was refreshing. The rain began to wash away slowly. With the lubricating lotion, Lan Yu's palm slowly slid all over her body. When she touched her sleek and tall body, a strange feeling spread to the bottom of her heart. Lan Yu couldn't help but think of being an article for yesterday. When he was undressing, he didn't know what he thought of her body, was he also tempted, but here is a forbidden area that no one has touched yet. She is a conservative girl. She intends to keep her pure for her wedding night. I don't know if I have read the article. I don't know what to do, but in my heart she has a vague idea, then even if I saw it for the article, it didn't matter. There was even a secret expectation. I don't know what it felt like, but Lan Yu felt that his heart was no longer as cold as it used to be. As I thought about it, my palm involuntarily used a little bit of strength, and stroking it down from my neck forcefully. The skin that had been washed with running water was crystal clear and clean, and I sensitively experienced the fiery sensation from my palm. Her strokes extend to all parts of her body. Although Lan Yu also knows that it's wrong to do this kind of thing, it can make her feel in this unfamiliar environment at this moment. She always feels like she can't stop, and she feels strange stimulation. Lan Yu is still a very pure girl. She has never experienced the feeling of full bloom, let alone the extreme pleasure, so it is her limit to achieve this level at this moment. The warm water kept hitting her forehead, making her sober gradually, and the heat in the body gradually dissipated. At this moment, she felt embarrassed. Although no one noticed, the red cloud was still full of her. The beautiful face gives her the feeling that the skin on her face is burning like a fire. Even if the water is constantly washed, it can't reduce the heat. A little ashamed of her behavior, Lan Yu quickly picked up the towel and wiped the water droplets off her body, but when she rubbed her pair of white rabbits, she couldn't help but increase her strength, but unexpectedly discovered when she felt a little bit of the same. She looked down and found that there was a faint red mark on her white, quiet and tender skin. This discovery surprised Lan Yu. She hurriedly went to the mirror to take a closer look. Through the mirror, Lan Yu clearly saw that there were obvious traces of a few fingers on her right breast, although her left breast's slight, but it can be distinguished that there are a few traces left. At first sight, Lan Yu thought it was a trace left by herself, a bit embarrassed, but after thinking about it, she found the problem. She didn't have much problem at all just now, and if she was strong enough to leave it, she must be able to feel the trace of her, so that means that the trace was not left by her herself. What she immediately thought of was what wrongdoing the article had done to her. However, after careful examination, she did not find any other abnormal feelings in her body. If the article was written, she was so drunk yesterday. No matter what the article did to her, she had no room to resist. If the article is for this kind of person, how could he stop himself? But who else is he? Lan Yu couldn't think of other possibilities at all. While Lan Yu was thinking slowly there, the article had lost control of the energy in the body at this moment. Although he was still sitting cross-legged as he did at the beginning, he had fallen into a semi-conscious state. His 7 orifices flowed out slowly, but it was abnormally red. When the blood touched the skin of the article, it was like a drop of water dripping on the fire. The water in it was evaporated to dryness in a moment, leaving only a trace. Faint traces. Under the reflection of the energy in the body, the skin of the whole body gradually became translucent, and the blood vessels under the skin were faintly visible. From time to time, a drop of blood droplets appeared from the pores, and then disappeared in an instant. With a faint red dot, the blood in the human body is always limited. Even the strongest person cannot withstand such a sluggish flow, and this article is facing such a dilemma at this moment. If this continues, it may not be necessary. After the evolution is complete, maybe he will die with blood, but all this can only be resigned to fate. In school, Sima Wenlong, one of the few friends who wrote the article, was thinking about the article, but he was not worried, but confused. In his impression, the article has never been in class. He tried to skip class with the article several times, but was rejected by the article without exception. The article was enough to surprise him if he didn't come to class. What was more unexpected was that the girl who answered her phone turned out to be a girl. Who was it? He thought for 2 whole classes and didn't think of who the girl would be. Fortunately, the morning class was over, which made him decide to rush to the article to see what happened. But before his feet stepped out of the door, someone came to him. Sima Wenlong, wait a minute, I have something to ask you. A clear and sweet female voice said behind him. As soon as he heard this voice, Sima Wenlong knew who it was. He turned around and said helplessly, Squad leader, what can you do? It was said that the person who called Sima Wenlong was the monitor of their class, Shui Qingying. This Shui Qingying was not an ordinary woman, she was a peerless beauty. When you look closely, you can see that the skin is crystal clear and fair, the melon seed-shaped round face, Danfan eyes, clear and deep, willow leaves curved eyebrows, beautiful and charming, Kyung nose towering, like a carved jade, delicate and charming, a small cherry mouth, she is even more delicate and exquisite, with a toothy smile, countless beautiful sceneries with her lips and teeth, it can be described as a smile, such a beautiful girl, a class flower in the class, is also in the top 3 in the department, even in the courtyard is also well known. The most important thing is that each subject is very good, and it is deeply loved by the teachers. Of course, it is the candidate of the class leader who does my part. There are a large group of supporters everywhere. A few days ago, Sima Wenlong often skipped classes, so Shui Qingying, who was the monitor, went to him to communicate. Sima Wenlong thought he had taken the opportunity and took the opportunity to find fault with the monitor. Although the squad leader Shui did not say anything, an astonishing number of supporters of the squad leader slumped him one after another and suffered everywhere. Seeing Shui Qingying now, he was taking a detour, and he didn't know what was going on today. Seeing Sima Wenlong's somewhat weird expression, Shui Qingying knew well, and said flatly, Sima Wenlong, are you good friends with the article? It didn't matter to him, Sima Wenlong was finally relieved, he was scared, and said a little lightly, yes, what's the matter? Shui Qingying noticed this subtle change and pursed her lips and said, I ask you, why didn't he come to class today? I don't know, I didn't see him either. Sima Wenlong was a little confused, why Shui Daimei would be interested in herself, the most inconspicuous friend in the class. He never knew that there was a relationship. What's the matter? Seeing Sima Wenlong frowning, Shui Qingying knew what was in his head and said coldly, don't think about it, I have something to look for him, do you know where he is? Hearing Shui Qingying's tone was wrong, Sima Wenlong knew that Lu Ziyai had come out, and quickly corrected his tone and said, I'm sorry, don't misunderstand. I'm also thinking about what he did today. I'm going to look for him. Does he live nearby? Shui Qingying asked softly after hearing his words. Sima Wenlong immediately thought of whether Big Beauty Shui wanted to go with him, and he didn't dare to neglect at all, and quickly replied, well, not far, it's at number 123 Xingguang Road. Shui Qingying thought for a while and said, oh, well, wait for me, I will clean up, and then run with you, I will come to you later. After that, she turned around and went out to pack things. As soon as Shui Qingying left here, a group of Sima Wenlong's friends and dogs gathered around, and asked him all about what the beauty of Shui was looking for. Sima Wenlong pretended to be chic and raised his head and said, hi, hey, envy you all. The beautiful lady Shui is going to go out with me on a date. The group of people around him compared him with an internationally contemptuous gesture, and kept chanting. A squinted little fat man said with a mocking tone, only you, Shui Daimei will take the initiative to ask you. As soon as the little fat man's voice fell, the figure of the beautiful Shui appeared at the door of the classroom, seeing Sima Wenlong still chatting with a group of people there, frowning and saying, Sima Wenlong, hurry up, I'll wait at the gate of the academy. You turn around and leave after speaking. When Sima Wenlong heard the call, he hurriedly said loudly, okay, I'll be there soon. While trying to squeeze out, he turned his head and said with glory to the little fat man who had just satirized him, I heard it, Shui the big beauty is calling me. He can squeeze out there, the road is blocked, where the people around are willing to let him go. Another guy said, Sister Shui definitely didn't ask you to go on a date, just talk about what it is, don't say you. If you can't go, don't blame us when the time comes. Although the group of guys around were dissatisfied with his name, they couldn't care about so much at this time. They booed up and asked Sima Wenlong to tell the truth, otherwise they wouldn't let him go, because the beauty of Shui hadn't dealt with anything in the public. A boy had said this before, and he had to figure out what was going on. Sima Wenlong saw that he couldn't leave without telling the truth, but there was no need to tell the truth. Then I thought about the article. This guy usually has nothing to do with him, so he has to have some fun, so he said loudly, then. Let's be honest, Shui Daimei asked me to take her to find the article. She is interested in the article now, haha, you are all hopeless. Then she took advantage of the people around her to get out, leaving behind a group of people. People were dumbfounded there. After hearing Sima Wenlong's words, a group of people were in a daze there, without even remembering who the article was. Of course, the article is not a beautiful or handsome man, and his work is usually unobtrusive. There are very few friends, and there is no common language with these dudes. It took a long time to think of him. The appearance is average, the grades are average, and there is usually no attraction. He is a good student who can only read books. He is so low-key that they almost forget him. How could this kind of person attract the favor of the beautiful woman? However, when they put it together, they found that the article did not come to class today, and Sima Wenlong, as a friend of the article, did not have to lie. Is it true that Sima Wenlong said? A group of people couldn't think of a clue at all, just guessing there, but they couldn't come to any credible conclusions. The result of a group discussion was that after the article appeared, they would confirm this to him. If it is true, they would warn him not to dream of eating swan meat as a toad. If he is not obedient, then they will adopt other methods. Sima Wenlong got rid of this group of guys. When he came to the gate of the academy, he saw Shui Qingying leaning on a new-color and uniquely shaped speeding car. Sima Wenlong recognized at a glance that the speeding car was the industrial giant Longxiang. This year's limited edition of the Need for Speed, there are only 200 cars in the world. When he first saw the unique shape of this speeder, he wanted to own one. Unfortunately, he tried his best and didn't even get the root hair. Only helplessly give up. I didn't expect to see it here today. It seems that Shui Qingying is definitely not a child of ordinary people. This kind of car is not something anyone can drive. No wonder the guys in the school are coveted, but they dare not take her. Kind. In order to avoid his own bad luck, Sima Wenlong ran over quickly. Seeing him coming, Shui Qingying frowned and said, "Hurry up, why are you so slow? Did you talk nonsense to them?" She opened the door and got into the driving position. Sima Wenlong didn't dare to talk nonsense, so he had to avoid the seriousness and replied lightly, "They surrounded me and didn't let me go. I told them that the two of us were going to find articles." He didn't comment on Sima Wenlong's words, and I don't know if he wanted to retaliate for what he said just now. Shui Qingying instantly increased his speed to the limit of the speed on this road, driving fast. Sima Wenlong admired the superior performance of the vehicle, and was surprised at the boldness of the beauty. He never knew that the beauty of the water was so wild when driving. Although he knew that the safety performance of this speed car was very good, he still couldn't help feeling for his safety. Worry. Fortunately, the place was not far away, and Shui Qingying was driving with all his strength. They soon reached the ground. Sima Wenlong took Shui Qingying to the article's house and rang the doorbell. It was just what he was thinking at the moment. I don't know if the girl who answered the phone in the morning is still there. However, Lan Yu said that Lan Yu showered herself with an inexplicable mood, wearing the clothes of the article, and then washed and dried all the dirty clothes that asked herself and the article, and then turned around. She found it on the table in the living room. A bunch of keys, which were conveniently placed there when the article entered the room. After turning for a while, Lan Yu finally found that her stomach had not eaten rice since she drank last night, and she was a little panicked when she was hungry. At this moment, once she settled down, she immediately groaned. "Fortunately, just now I saw some ingredients in the kitchen, so I had to cook by myself." Fortunately, she often practiced her hands when she was alone, and her cooking skills were not bad. After a while in the kitchen, the aroma came out. The preparation is also very simple. The millet porridge with some side dishes is a good product after being drunk. It looks like the rice in the porridge is like pearls, crystal clear, and looks very attractive. It is combined with a simple treatment. A few dishes of delicious fragrant dishes, even if people who have no appetite read and smell them, they will also have a great appetite. In fact, she specially made such exquisite and prepared articles for the article. She thought the article was not because of these things. I'm so embarrassed to see her, I avoided it for the time being, I'll always come back later, even if I thank him a little bit for helping her yesterday. But waiting left and right, there was no trace of the article. Just as she had just finished eating, the doorbell rang. Originally the article was the owner, living alone, and there was no need to ring the doorbell when he came back. Even if he presses it, no one will open the door for him. But Lan Yu saw the key on the table. She thought she had forgotten the key in the article, so she rang the doorbell and tried it. After waiting for so long, he finally came back. After looking up and down, Lan Yu went to open the door without finding anything wrong. As soon as the door opened, everyone inside and outside was taken aback. The person who opened the door was a beautiful woman, but she simply wore a set of boys' clothes. Sima Wenlong could see the clothes of the article at a glance. The most important thing was that her hair was still wet, obviously just washed. The appearance of the bath is a bit intriguing and thought-provoking. Sima Wenlong is a little better. He has been here many times, and he is pretty sure that this is the house of the article. The girl in front of him, he guessed that Lan Yu might be the girl who answered the phone in the morning, and who this girl was, he hadn't seen her at all. Seeing her in the clothes of the article, the relationship with him might be quite close, is it true? It was he who underestimated the article, and he was able to catch such a punctual horse so quickly, so he must ask him for advice. Sima Wenlong was familiar with himself, and in a few sentences, he brought the relationship between several people closer. Lan Yu also knew that he was the person who called in the morning, and with such a beautiful girl by the side, he naturally wanted to be more at ease with him. The three of them entered the house and chatted slowly.